to the two administration officials. Thanks for being here. Mr. Secretary, thanks for the nice conversation yesterday. And as you know, I sit both on this committee and the Environment and Public Works Committee, both of which have some jurisdiction over the main titles in the Surface Transportation Authorization Bill. And last month, we held a hearing in EPW on the solvency of the Highway Trust Fund. And it was pointed out then during the hearing that the fund would be nearly solvent if transit programs were actually appropriated rather than being included in the Highway Trust Fund distribution. Now, I appreciate the point, and I assume there's not an appetite in Congress right now to strip transit from the Highway Trust Fund, but traditionally, Congress has always kept an 80-20 split between highway and transit programs respectively. And so as we work towards this reauthorization, maybe give me your perspective or just ask straight up, do you agree that we should keep the 80-20 split in between the highways and transit?
Well, I certainly recognize the role that that split in the formula has traditionally played. I would say the jobs plan thinks beyond the year-to-year funding that we're accustomed to, because we know that a different ratio may characterize the once-in-a-lifetime transformational investments that we think we need to make as a country. So I think even though legislatively those two things may come to be joined together potentially, depending on how things proceed, I would say conceptually we're really talking about two different things. Of course, I think most of the communities we speak to are perhaps less concerned with the some of the technicalities than they are with making sure that these priorities are funded. And I know that that's certainly important in rural areas that have a lot on the line in terms of whether we continue to support critical connections, whether we're talking about roads and highway, transit, or other means of getting around. And want to echo what some of your colleagues have mentioned, that transit, I think, in the public imagination sometimes is conceived of as a strictly a big city phenomenon. But of course, it's often in small communities that can make a big difference as well.
It is, but again, underfunding highways to the, to this other issue, it has obviously a detriment as well. So the bottom line is we need enough money, obviously, to do all the things we want to do. In the meantime, I'd like to hang on to at least as much of the formula as we can, if not all of it. I'm going to switch for just a second. Madam Secretary, Secretary Fudge, great to see you again, by the way. I look forward to working with you some more. As you know, access to affordable housing obviously is a challenge for a lot of Americans, including those in rural America. So both highways and housing have a lot in common. The Housing Choice Voucher Program at HUD, it helps about little over 5 million low-income people afford safe housing and decent housing in the private market. And it's administered, of course, by local public housing agencies, PHAs, as you know, and families that receive a voucher have 60 days to find a unit. They then pay 30% of household income toward rent and utilities, while the PHA pays the landlord the remaining rent. And HCVs increase, of course, stability, they reduce homelessness, and each year lift more than 1 million people out of poverty. As HUD acknowledges in its 2019 Evidence Matters report, landlord participation in the program determines the number of available units. It's pretty obvious, right? And their geographic distribution, of course, which in turn affects tenant mobility and healthy housing, fair housing. Unfortunately, there are things like rent payment standards, administrative processes, and misrepresentations of the program that can cause uncertainty in the operations and deter owners from participating in the program. In fact, we know that landlord participation is declining, with an average of 10,000 housing providers having left the program each year between 2010 and 2016. So as part of it, just more of an announcement, as part of improving the voucher holders' access, today Senator Coons and I introduced a bill to increase resources and reduce the programmatic barriers in the HCV program that will help hopefully attract and retain landlords. It's called the Choice and Affordable Housing Act. Provides $500 million to create what we call the Herschel Laskowitz Housing Partnership Fund, which is named after a longtime state senator and mayor of Fargo, who was a strong advocate for affordable housing. And just quickly, it would offer a signing bonus to landlord with a unit in low poverty areas, provide security deposit assistance so that the tenants can better afford to meet the required deposits, provide a financial bonus, increase funding to the Tribal HUD VASH program, and use some neighborhood specific data and reduce inspection delays. And I just say all that as my time runs out. Secretary Fudge, just to tell you that I'm looking forward to spending more time with you to talk about the specifics as we roll it out.
Look forward to it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.